What's up, guys? It's Jake here from Chief Live Gaming. Today, 8th edition 40k. I want to talk to you guys about my first impressions for Orks in 8th edition. Got my hands on a demo copy of the rule set and all of the points values, all of that lovely stuff in the Xenos book for Orks. My goodness, guys. Orks are in a very good place right now. I have a feeling that they will be played significantly more in 8th. Some major changes to a few things make quality of life for Orks significantly better, and we'll get into those again later in the video. I just want to mention kind of at first my first overall impressions of 8th, and I kind of want to keep this quick because this is again an Ork focused video. So overall, guys, 8th, man, it's really good. The hype is so real. If you guys haven't got a chance to look at the rule set, your local gaming store has an advanced copy right now. Go there, read through it, talk to people about 8th that have played. I don't, again, want to go into rules because in 2 weeks-ish, everybody's going to have them anyway, and the video will kind of be redundant at that point. But the games are faster than 7th. It's a little weird because turn 2 feels like a turn 4 of 7th. Because you can't null deploy, because of the way threat is front-loaded and just kind of the way the rules have changed, stuff is happening a lot faster and a lot earlier in the game in 8th edition. So by the time I got to game turn 3 or 4, 3 really, it felt like the end of a 7th edition game. It was a little bit weird, but very good and very cool overall. Even though we were looking up a ton of rules, obviously it was our first time playing, the game didn't take us, I would say, hardly any longer than a game of 7th that we knew the rules very well for. So good signs. We played at 2,000 points, so I believe that's the equivalency of roughly 1,750, depending on the army, in 7th edition, somewhere in there. Don't quote me on that. I know there's certain lists that have hit harder by the points increase, have been hit harder rather. So very good things about 8th edition. I don't want to talk too much about general stuff because the video, I'll just go on forever. It's just amazing. All you need to know is that I love it. You will too. And don't worry about things people are saying, the negative stuff. People are going to find negative things to say no matter what happens. There's the vocal minority that's just going to shit on no matter what rule set comes out. They're going to shit on any rules, and that's kind of seems to be what's happening with all this negativity regarding 8th edition. So guys, get out there, play it, look forward to it. So I want to talk to you guys now about my impressions of Orks. I've got a basic list laid out here for you, and this is what I've come up with after a little bit of experimenting. A few major changes to Orks in general will allow you to see a lot more boys on the table, which you may notice reflected here. There are 80 Ork boys in this list, and over 20 other models for infantry. So we're over 100 infantry models in this list at 2,000 points. Now, get hyped, Ork players. A couple major changes I'm about to throw at you. Boys are back up to 30. You can take them up to 30, so it's a minimum of 10. And then I think you have to go up in blocks of 10. So 10, 20, or 30 blocks for boys. Hype, right? Anytime you are over 20 models, you gain an additional attack. Just because it's a rule called Green Tide. It's attached to the boys unit profile. Anytime you have a boys unit over 20, you gain an additional attack. Anytime you attack with a Choppa, you gain an additional attack. And they still have 2 attacks base. So you're getting 4 attacks when you have a unit of 20 plus boys with Choppa Slugger. Very good. And again, in 8th, it doesn't matter if you charged. You're just in combat. You have this amount of attacks with this weapon. Charging doesn't give you bonus attacks anymore. So you're going to have usually 3, 4 for your large squads. Weird knobs can throw out a spell that gives them an additional attack, some crazy combos that could go on to get just waves and waves of dice thrown at your opponent. So let's go off tripod and look at this here. Due to this change, moving up to 30, I've included two blocks rather, of 30 boys here. Now, another very important thing to note, very, very important about Orks in this edition, is the new mob rules for Mob Rule. Anytime you have a squad of Ork infantry, I'm pretty sure it's all of them, their leadership or morale is equivalent to the unit size, the models in the unit. So if you have a unit of 10 Ork boys, their leadership is 10. Meaning that boys are significantly more durable. Large squads, even blocks of 20, like you're seeing over here, are pretty much fearless in their own way. You need to dig a lot of wounds to actually care about the morale or battle shock in 8th edition. So that's really good. That was one of the things that made the biggest difference, I think, in my play. The boys felt very, very stable and very strong. They're hitting on 3s against anything, remember. You're not comparing weapon skill anymore, so you just hit on a 3-up in combat. You can shoot your pistols into combat. It's just like they can deal with a lot of things. Very effective. Boys are back. The boys are back in town, as they say. So another kind of interesting change. This doesn't matter too much. I thought it was interesting. You can still take one big shooter or rocket launcher for every 10 in your squad. So we've got 3 big shooters. They're still very good. And then instead of adding the boss knob on, you just replace one of your boys with the boss knob. So there aren't 31 models in this squad, there are 30. Because one of the boys in the squad of 30 is now a boss knob. They can still take power claws. No need for boss poles at all anymore. Those aren't even a thing. Doesn't exist. Don't need it. So there you go. So it's about what I wanted to say with boys. We're running 2 by 30 here. They're going to foot slog across the board. Additional 20 over here in a battle wagon. Battle wagon, you may notice, has a def rolla, which is now good again. Very good in 8th because vehicles can attack in combat. I still favor the 4 big shooters for weaponry on the battle wagon. Very tough unit. I think it has like 16 wounds, toughness 7. Don't quote me on that. But they still die very fast. It's very deceptive because that sounds very strong, right? It sounds really good. But it's easy to do a lot of wounds very fast in 8th, so they're not actually like unkillable or anything like that like you may think. So the list has 2 battle wagons. In the other battle wagon, we have 2 groups of 10 burners. That's right, you can put multiple units in the same transport now, which is amazing. They can also move out of it and then charge. Just amazing. So many amazing things. So we've got 2 squads of 10 burners, both in the same battle wagon. The Def Dread is coming back on the table. He is very good in close combats. Some pretty good rules. Fairly costed, I think. Just kind of a fun little unit. And then 3 Defcopters. Defcopters stayed about the same in 7th. They probably got a little bit better than in 7th. They have a 36-inch range, 6-shot gun now as their DACA gun kind of thing, instead of or they can take the 2 shots of rockets, but the rockets are like double the cost as the 4 shots of strength 5, or the 6 shots of strength 5, excuse me. So I'm preferring the DACA gun sort of build for these now. Strength 4 and 5 is just very, very, very versatile in 8th edition. Remember, just because of the way that strength and toughness work now, you don't really need a ton of strength to still wound a ton of stuff. About strength 7, strength 8, you kind of hit a sweet spot where you start doubling things out and getting down to wounding on a 2. But strength 4, even against toughness, like 7 or something, is still going to wound you on a 5. Very cool. So strength 4 and strength 5, very versatile weapon strength to use. So Commandos, they're fun. They're in there. They're kind of my flex points. Commandos, basically set up the new way of deploying anything via essentially a deep strike rule or something like that. Is you can set up no closer than 9 inches to any enemy wherever you want on the board. There's no scattering or anything like that like in 7th edition. So the way these guys do it, everything's a little different. These guys come in at the end of any movement phase. That's correct. At the end of your choice of any movement phase, you bring them in, but they have to be further away than 9 inches from any enemy. You can charge the same turn you arrive if you want, but again, that's a long charge. So Commandos, they get a bonus to the cover that they're in. I think they get a 2 increase to 2 to their armor save instead of an increase of 1 like everything else every other infantry model gets. Kind of nice, just kind of a little fun filler unit. I want to talk about Ork HQs. There's some some really exciting changes here. You may notice, let's get down here, these are just 2 proxy Weird Knob Shaman thingies that I use for Weird Boys until I get my legit GW models in. They're in the mail right now. These were for test purposes. I'm very impressed with the Weird Boys. The jump, or jump, excuse me, is a power that lets you pull a unit off the table and deep strike it, like with the rules I just mentioned. So, you know, you take your Weird Boy, cast a jump on this squad of 30 boys, scoop them off the table and set them up way the piss over there or wherever you want, as long as you can fit the whole squad farther away than 9 inches from an enemy. So some potential for movement, some really fast movement with Orks. Again, this doesn't stop you from charging. If you can make the sick roll, you can do it. So 2 Weird Boys in my list. They also have the power, I kind of mentioned it earlier, where if you get it off on a unit, it gives them an additional attack to the entire unit. Very cool, very orky, and potentially very good for boys. Now, these are my other 2 HQs. I have 4 total. You may notice there's no war boss here, which is really strange and feels really weird. There are 2 pain boys. I have one mounted on a bike, and that's just to give them a little more mobility. It is very expensive to buy the bike, but it gives them an additional wound, an additional toughness, and brings them to a 4-up armor save instead of 6. So, as well as moving 14 inches. The pain boys are different now. You can still project essentially a feel no pain bubble. The way it works is any unit within 3 inches of a pain boy gets a roll of a 6 to attempt to save wounds. So it's essentially like feel no pain in 7th. You make an additional roll after your saves, and if you roll a 6, you can save that wound. Pretty cool. The other big thing they can do is if they go into base contact with another model, so say this guy has taken some wounds and we want to heal him, we bring our pain boy over. I think it's like within an inch or something, but you roll a dice to do some kind of pain boy surgery, and if you roll a 1, biker guy is sad and loses a wound. Any other result, and he heals D3 wounds lost earlier in the battle. So they're actually kind of healers, which is really cool. The biggest and most intense thing about pain boys now, they can take power claws. Guys, let that sink in. Pain boys with power claws. That is so good. So good. I'm so excited. It's good. It's amazing. So, we're running pain boys. Now, I don't have a war boss, which is weird. War bosses, now let me grab, I have one over here. Come here, war boss. Come to me. They have an ability that projects a 6-inch bubble, and it lets any unit within 6 inches charge, even if they've already advanced or essentially ran this turn. So it is still pretty much like the WA rules of 7th, where you get to run and charge in the same turn. But he projects it within 6 inches. He's a beast in combat, as you may expect. But, guys, I feel like the Pain Boy brings more utility and does still some very scary damage. I have to experiment with the War Boss more. I like him. I just like Pain Boys better. And for the cost, these 4 HQs were my sort of build to squeeze everything in. The War Boss was just a bit more pricey on the higher end of things for what I needed. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about the build of the list real quick. We're already at like 15 minutes for this video, but so much to talk about. A big thing in 8th are command points. So let's talk about command points for a second. I could go pretty in depth with this, but I'm gonna try to be brief, guys. I know I'm not good at that, but basically command points right now are used for 3 different things. Popping them, you're allowed to use one of the command abilities per phase. So one of the biggest ones is re-rolling a dice. You can't re-roll more than once per phase, so you can't like take 3 shooting attacks and use 3 command points to re-roll 3 misses. You can only use 1 to re-roll 1 of the misses. But having command points and having a pool of command points is extremely good and important in 8th edition from what I've seen so far. You get 3 command points for free for being in a matched play Battleforged army. 3 more come from being I believe it's called a battalion. It's basically the new combined arms detachment. So I have that here. You need 2 HQs. We've got the 2 pain boys, and you need a minimum of 3 troops. Again, boys, boys, boys. And then the rest here of the infantry is also in that detachment. So that's giving me another 3 command points, bringing my total to 6. And from there, I have 2 more slots to use detachments if I'd wish to. So what I did was I brought, this is called an Outrider Detachment. It is a minimum of 1 HQ and 3 fast attack slots. So we have 3 single DACA jet. They're not DACA jets, they're Defcoptas. 3 single Defcoptas with a Pain Boy for an HQ. That gives me an additional command point. And then a Spearhead Detachment over here. This is a single HQ and 3 heavy supports for another command point. So that totals, if I can do math, to 8 command points, which seems about the sweet spot. 8 or 9 feels like a good amount. I think you can get by with 6 just fine, but having more is never bad if you can squeeze it, which in my case, it wasn't too much of a stretch because I was already bringing these 3 heavy supports and I wanted Defcoptas. So it's like, okay, well, if I split them into single groups and then make room for another HQ, I can get another command point. So something to consider when you're building your lists, command points, keep them in the back of your head. They can be very, very helpful. So really, guys, I don't want to just continue to talk forever about 8th because I know I could. I want to, but what I want to hear about is what you guys think of 8th, what your experiences are, if you're excited, if you're not, if you have ideas for Orks. If you're an Ork player finding this video, leave them down below. Let me know what you think. This is the theme I'm going for so far, moving forward. I think having the big blobs of boys is going to be very beneficial and a very popular and strong sort of core for Ork lists now. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and we'll talk about it. I'm very curious to see other opinions. So, again, guys, always find me on social media. I try to post regularly: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm also on Patreon if you'd like to support the channel, see more videos, more tutorials, battle reports, stuff like that. Patreon helps me to do that. So thank you guys very much for watching the video. I hope you're as excited about 8th edition as I am. A lot of content to come. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day. Bye now.